Hey Noah and Jesse, we're going to show you how to cradle today, okay? First, a couple pointers on your stick. Um, Cradling you do for two different reasons. Number one is so that you can be athletic and run fast. If you can't cradle, then you're always going to be worried about kind of where that ball is, and you'll be running down the field full speed. And if you're not cradling, that ball is just going to bounce around and pop out. So we want to keep that ball seated against the back of our pocket there, all right? The other reason you cradle is to protect your stick, so that if you get checked, or you protect the ball rather, you get checked, either on the top or bottom of your stick, that ball a lot of times will stay in there if your stick gets hit by somebody else's. So those are the two reasons you want to cradle. If you want to be really athletic, then you just have to really learn how to cradle and know where that ball is, whether it's in your right hand or your left hand, okay? So everything you do, again, in lacrosse, if you did it with your right, you do it with your left and vice versa. That way you're balanced and you're a threat, whether you're on the right side of the field or the left side of the field, okay? The pocket, let's talk about the pocket real fast. So in lacrosse, if you look at where that ball is, I don't know if you can see it right now, but if you look at where that ball is and you lined up this plastic, and by the way, this is my mini stick that I use inside the house with the soft ball, so the missus doesn't yell at me if the ball gets loose. But the stick, you want to make sure first of our pocket's right, okay? So we want as deep a pocket as possible, but still legal. And the pocket in lacrosse is illegal when you turn the stick on its side and you put the ball in there, and you can see the full top of that ball. Meaning, if you lined up this plastic, the bottom of the sidewall here, and the bottom of the sidewall on the other side, if you line that up and you can see that whole ball, then meaning it's sunk down like this, so you can easily see both sidewalls, right? That's an illegal pocket. So a legal pocket is as much pocket as possible, but the top of that ball is still hidden a little bit. And you just have to remember that when it gets wet outside, that pocket's gonna sag a little bit. So you never want it to be dry right up underneath there, or else you always have to check it. And if you get caught with an illegal pocket in a game, that's like a 4-minute penalty for you in your team. Your team's gonna be man down. It's like a huge penalty. So don't get caught with a legal pocket, but at the same time, open that bad boy up as much as you can because you want it sunk down there as much as possible. And if it's not sunk down all the way, two things you can do is you'll have sidewall strings that are usually knotted on the bottom here. You can loosen this knot, add some slack to the sidewall string, and then tighten it again. Or the bottom of the pocket, you'll see strings down here. You can undo that, loosen it up, and then push that pocket down a little bit and then tighten it up and give it some slack down there. So a combination of those two things is how you get a deeper pocket, all right? So you want a deep pocket, but not an illegal pocket. Okay, so there's two types of cradles. There's a power cradle, which is two-handed. And when you're cradling, by the way, you always want the stick up and down. You never want the stick sticking out, because if you were my defender and the goal was behind you, and I'm coming at you with the ball in my stick, I don't want it out here, right? Because it's easy to check. I don't want to be cradling like this or like this. I want the stick up and down, because look what happens when it's up and down and my back is to you and I'm keeping my body between the stick and the ball and my defender. You can't see it when it's vertical, right? And I keep it tight. I don't want it out here. I want it tight to my body, okay? So that's how you protect that stick, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Now, philosophically, the way that you're going to get a really good feel for where that ball is by doing this one little exercise right here. And for this exercise, I got to turn the stick sideways, okay? But you want to just rest the stick with the ball in it. We have a little bit of an audience here. You want to say hi? You want to say hi to the camera? Okay, so for this exercise, you want to put the ball in the stick and then rest it on your hand like this. Now with the regular shaft and a regular stick, it will balance somewhere around kind of like right there. I have to hold the bottom for this exercise because this stick is top heavy. But you rest it on your fingers like this, just the middle of your fingers, and then what you do is you let the ball do the work. And you want to take that hand and kind of push it in and out like that. Just like that, okay? And what you'll feel in doing that is that the weight of that ball is going to do the cradling for you. So feel that first. Get a good handle on what that feels like. And then as soon as you start to feel that ball rocking out like that, you can start curling your fingers. You see what I'm doing? So now I'm curling my fingers up a little bit, and now I'm gonna curl them more, and then I'm gonna add some wrist action in there. I'm gonna curl them, and that's how you wanna progress up to that. The whole time you're just feeling that ball doing the work, and then your wrist, it's almost like I'm throwing that head out, and I'm just using my wrists and my fingers, I'm rolling my fingers just to catch it, right? I'm throwing it and then catching it. I'm throwing it out there and catching it, but I'm gonna do it vertically, right? So it's kind of like this. I'm making the letter C with the tip of that head. So if this was a pen and I'm drawing the letter C, it's gonna look like this, right? So it's just a tight C if I'm doing this with my fingers and my wrist, and it becomes a big C if I'm really curling it with my arms, okay, and my shoulders. So again, you always want to keep it vertical, and this is called the power cradle. So you have a two-handed cradle, which is a power cradle, where you're running full speed down the field, and you're going to most likely be power cradling it. This is the most resilient against other people's checks, okay? When you're doing a two-handed cradle, the bottom hand doesn't do anything. If you look, you could almost just open it up like you're holding a pull cue for a pull shot, and all it is a guide, okay? So it's not doing anything. Your top hand's doing all the work, all right? Now, if I'm going to do a single-handed cradle, because I'm dodging, meaning I'm trying to go through my defender, I'm going to keep the stick vertical again, and I'm putting my arm out here. You have to be careful, though, not to move this offhand, or otherwise you'll get called for a ward. And a ward is when you're using your offhand to push the defender off or to block their stick. So you can have your hand out there as a shield. You can put it down, open your hand, close your hand. You can put it out here. You can put it up like this. But that is only, it has to stay stationary if you're running with one hand, okay? Otherwise, if you get called for a ward, you got to give up possession and it's the other team's ball, which is the whole point of trying to guard our stick to begin with, right? So when we're cradling, we have start off right here, let the ball do the work, kind of push your hand in and out, and then start rolling your fingers as you try to start pushing that ball out there a little bit, and then roll that wrist and then the arm, and then you progress into a big letter C, just like that. But you want that head up high and the shaft down low. And this is what it should look like. So Dad, if you want to test Noah, then pretend that, Dad, your hand is the defender's stick, and you're trying to get in there to jar this ball out. Noah, what you're going to do is keep the stick vertical, and you always want to keep this elbow inside, because the defender, if it's out here, will stick their stick through your arm and then crank up, or they'll put their hand on the bottom here and check your elbow. So I always keep my elbow pinned inside. My hand is almost down here over top of my cup. And I'm keeping that, I don't want my hand out here because, Dad, if you're defending and you see that bottom hand come out, grab the bottom of the stick and then lift. So those lifts are the most effective checks out there because it forces that head to come down and that ball to come out. So if you're cradling, you're doing a power cradle because I'm going around my defender, I'm keeping my elbow in and my bottom hand inside so the defender can't get a piece of that, and I'm keeping that stick up and down. And you notice that if my back's turned and my shoulder is shielding, you can't even see the head of that stick, right? That's how you protect your stick. And then when you switch hands to go from cradling this way to cradling this way, it's a very simple motion. It's kind of like putting a sword in the sheath. What I'm going to do is, this is what you want to practice. You cradle, then when you want to switch hands, you drop that top hand, put the sword into the sheath like this, right? And at the same time I'm doing that, I'm lifting this hand up into a cradle. And I'm going to bring that bottom hand over here to guide. And I'm doing the same thing this way. Okay, when I switch over, if I feel like switching, I'm going to drop the sword in the sheath and bring that hand up. And now I'm cradling this way. Whether it's you leave it just one hand or you put your bottom hand on it. So this is what it looks like, right? I'm dropping the sword in the sheath. I'm lifting that bottom hand up at the same time, and it's a fluid motion. It shouldn't look like 1, 2, 3, up. It should just be fluid like this, right? Drop the sword in the sheath, bring that hand up at the same time, and then return that top hand down low to serve as the guide again. And you'll notice that the reason I'm turned like this is because that stick follows my body, the line of my body, so my body stays shielding the stick. Because if you're behind me and I'm running this way, then when I turn, I'm going to have my body protecting that stick the whole time, okay? So I'm coming. I'm gonna plant with my outside foot. I'm gonna turn, and you can't see my stick. I'm gonna run this way. I'm gonna plant with my outside foot. Sword goes in the sheath, hand comes up, and now I'm cradling this way again, okay? So that's some pointers on cradling. The point there is just let the ball do the work, and then you're rolling your fingers and your wrists and then your arm just becomes a guide for the ball to exaggerate what that ball wants to do by itself. And then just remember to keep the stick vertical. And then Dad, if you want to practice, it's a fun game. You practice trying to get that stick out. Noah, you just run back and forth. You try to keep that stick in there, or the ball in there the whole time, okay? And you practice switching. If you want to set up some cones, you can do a zigzag drill. The way that works is I have cones set up almost like a zigzag. I use my slippers. Let's say I have 3 cones. I'm gonna start down here. I'm gonna start off on the bottom here. Let's say there's a 4th cone right here. I'll start here, I'll go to this outside cone, I'll plant with my left foot. I'll put the sword in the sheath, switch to my right hand, come around this cone, plant with the outside foot, sword in the sheath, come around this cone, outside foot, and then down. What's so funny? Ethan's laughing. Okay, so that's how we do our drills. So it's going to be coming this way, and then coming this way, and that's how it should look. Again, try to keep the stick up the whole time, vertical. Don't let it hang out the side. And then, Dad, you can test it by just coming up from behind and slapping the stick around and trying to find a piece of an arm or a shaft or the head of the stick and slap it around. Okay. Also, I forgot to mention when you're throwing and catching, keep the stick vertical when you're throwing and catching as well, especially when you're catching, because new lacrosse players have a tendency to want to turn the stick like a basket because for some reason they think that holding it like this will let the ball seat better. But when you turn the stick like this to catch it, look how the face of the stick gets cut off. You want that wide open out front, so when the ball's coming, it's just wide open pocket right there, and it's really easy to catch it. And then if you're cushioning it on that catch, then it's not going to go anywhere. It's the easiest way to get that ball in that pocket. Never turn your stick horizontal on a catch like this, okay? Keep it vertical and then let it cushion. And that's how you want to catch it. So when you're throwing and catching, you'll basically just return the ball where it's supposed to be, right? So my shoulders forward, it comes back, 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 and I'm ready to either dodge right now and go, or I'm ready to shoot, or I'm ready to hurry up and feed somebody. That's why they call it the triple threat position. You want to kind of be in that athletic stance the whole time. All right, guys, have fun.